What do you think of when you hear the word grits? Girls raised in the South, of course. If that was your association, then boy do I have a surprise for you. When I hear grits, I hear a 4-to-1 ratio of liquid and corn. Today, we'll be using udder juice to fulfill our 4 quota in the amount of 2 American cups, or 473 British milliliters. Before you add your half Freedom Cup or 170 Yorkshire grams of corn dust, you'll want to heat that boob drink over medium-ish heat until steam makes its debut appearance. If you're blind, I'm sorry because I cannot refer to you what thicky icky looks like, but you'll definitely feel some resistance. Season this up with a couple of big pinches of flavor sand and let it rest. In a pie plate, in the freezer. We've got big plans for this later. A little side note, if you're following along with the video and you haven't looked down at the written recipe below, add about 2 tablespoons of AP flour to your grits and then mix it in for later purposes. If you're short on time, 40 minutes in the freezer should be enough. If you're making this ahead, place it in the fridge for a couple of hours. Now we can work on our toppings for this stanky leftover surprise, or whatever the title of this video is. Grab some yard onions and split them into their main parts. Cooking onions and presentation onions. For those cooking onions, slice and dice them into a fine dice. Just make big onion, little onion. For those high-class presenters, turn your knife to an angle and slice thinly. Don't be too biased about your onions, but they both have their place on this earth. I have a story for what the meat in this deli container is. Yesterday, I cooked a few slabs of ribs for my family. Funny enough, I cooked way too many, and these are the leftovers. Don't believe me? Here goes some on the bone for proof. Now you can't say anything about these being leftovers. And that's my story. Just like the onions, we want to chop big ribs into small ribs. Well, even smaller than what I pulled off yesterday. I think bite size is the correct word to use here. Now, that's a pile of meat that I could kiss your dad for. If you haven't been listening to my thoughts, then you might have missed when I was thinking about this turning out to be a Benedict. We'll need to get some water over medium-high heat to simmer. To this, add some sort of vinegar. I'm going with plain old distilled white, also my nickname in high school. About a tablespoon worth, or a few dashes for you other countries. Once it's at a full simmer, make a better attempt at making a water tornado than I did. Ploop 2 Yatesa into the water one at a time. What I did there works, but do it better than me. You want to cook these for about 5 minutes or 300 Scottish seconds in total, flipping halfway through. If you're struggling to get them out of the pan, use a bigger spoon than me. That's my only solution for that one. Give these a little sprinkling of flavor sand as well and set them aside. Since we're making a Benedict, we'll need a sauce. I use sugar-free barbecue sauce mixed with full sugar barbecue sauce because Mama always said if you have a sweet, you can counteract it with a diet sweet.
Okay.
Benedicts usually have a creamy hollandaise sauce, so I'm going to cream in my sauce by adding a big hunk of sour cream to it. Perfecto. Let's shift our focus to this pan. It's just an ordinary nonstick pan that someone used a metal utensil in. This is upsetting. So upsetting that I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of churned cream and olive oil to it. In my mild rage, I turned the heat to medium and allowed everything to melt together. Remember those grits that we made earlier? Now's the time to take your anger out by adding a quarter red, white, and blue cups or 235 proper grams to the pan. Now that you've had your retaliation, you can smooth these out to make some perfectly griddled cakes. Cook these on one side for about 3 minutes before flipping and cooking for an additional 3 minutes. Perfecto strikes again. Earlier, I said something about adding some flour to your grits, and here's a little clip of why you need it. If you look closely at this footage, you can see that the shit's fucked up. In my hubris of making the original idea, I made something that was just never going to work. But we all make mistakes, so we continue on with heating our cooking yard onions. Using the same pan, add 1 teaspoon of squeezed olive juice and those cooking greens. Saute these for about 1 minute until fragrant. After that time, toss in those leftover rib chunks to get hot for a second time. These are already loaded with tasty flavor, but it could use even more flavor, so season it up with some steak dust and some smokestack. If you don't know what the hell those are, check the link below. It's my company, by the way. You're supporting me directly by making a purchase. Check it out, big kids. Gently toss your salad until everything is heated up nicely. Bring that over to your resting cakes and top it up with that meat. Quick note, this recipe is enough for 2 people to enjoy what you see here. Top the meat with your repro chicken. Top that with your creamy sauce. And finally, it's time for the main event, the presentation greens. Yes, they have flavor and class, but that's all they have. No depth whatsoever, but that's totally fine. I'm going to eat this now. You can stay and watch if you're freaky like that. I know I would watch because I am indeed. freaky like that. Enjoy.